No, it's something. I want to go back to what we did yesterday because it was something left unclear and actually a little bit misunderstanding. The line begins, we'll go through quickly. The line begins with the word Ein Sof, that's about a third from the top, Alamed Hey. So we finished over here explaining the principle how Torah is both, is really fully representative of Atzmos itself. As we explained, that the whole Inyan, that Chochmah is really an Inyan Atzmi.
Torah is both what?
What?
You say Torah is both?
Right, on the one hand it is an Atzmus, and then also it's called Tzalmeinu, that it has a form. And we explained that this is the concept of a form, not a form that limits, that defines. It's a form that represents the entire Atzmut. The form came from inside the Atzmut itself. That this is how Atzmus would represent itself. Therefore, the form is not a limiting form. It is fully representative of the Atzmut. These are the limits that are represented in Torah. That's why it's called Betzalmeinu, because Betzalmeinu and Etzem were contradictory, and for this we went in the whole Ayichas and explained the Hinyan HaChochmah, that there's different madrigas in Chochmah, there is Chochmah where it is in Etzem, and just as Etzem has everything, Chochmah too has near from everything, as we discussed at great length, and this is why it is not as stated that it's called Talmeinu, because this tzelem, this form is a form atzmi. Okay, and now we continue on. The Ein Seisher at the end of this line, Ein Sof, it line begins in Sof. This is where we started yesterday, and we were not clear. As a matter of fact, there's a misunderstanding there. The Ein Seisher Mashin is void. This is not in contradiction. For that has been explained before, this bodily yield. The Mash and Emabatera mitzvah Shuvo. That the reason that in Torah there is also included the mitzvah of Shuva. We originally said that Shuva is the real Etzem, and is higher than all the mitzvahs and higher than Torah. But then we said, but there is an element in Torah that is of equal status, the Horaya, that Torah brings us the mitzvah of Tshuva. Torah tells us about Tshuva. That means that Torah can reach up to Niyat Tshuva. And we explained, how is it that Torah can speak about Tshuva? Whom mipnei shorsho, it is because of its root, b'bchinas tainug ha'atzmi mamush, because of its root in the tainug ha'atzmi. This is why Torah can contain the Tshuva. Bareich HaTshuva, but Tshuva is hilamaylo me'amdido de mitzvahs. Tshuva is above the measurement of mitzvahs. V'mishum zeh, where this is the reason and explains how come nasa alidei alyodas slichas u'avenos. This is how Tshuva can affect slichas u'avenos, because Tshuva is higher than the mitzvah of mitzvahs. And here we're saying that Torah, and therefore the Inyan that Torah can have Niyat Tshuva in it is because of its source in Tainug Atzmi. And here we're saying that Torah itself also has a medida. Salmein, this is the contradiction. We're saying that because Tainug is above all limits, and Tshuva itself is l'mayla medida. And so we said that Torah can speak about Tshuva because Torah is of equal status, of equal madrega. And here we're saying that no, Torah also has a medida, has a measure. Ho'inyan hu. So the Ayin in this is, in other words, despite the fact that we've explained that the measure in Tefillah, in Torah, it's called a medido atzmis. It's not a superimposed medido. It's not a medido that represents any kind of limitations. Nevertheless, Tshuva seems to be above it, because Tshuva is completely above medido. Whereas Torah has this medido of tzura atzmis. So for this we explain, but the principle in this is, no, it doesn't contradict what we have said about the relationship between Torah and Tefillah, Tshuva. Because the Tshuva had a gamkein medida. In Tshuva, there is also an inherent medida. What is a medida in Tshuva? V'hu shetzorich liyois Tshuva dafka. And the medida is that there has to be Tshuva dafka. There must be, dafka means emphatically. The only way that they tshuva, that it can be slichas avenis, is that there should be tshuva. V'alidei zeh davko nimshech slichas avenis, and only through the effect of tshuva, this medida of tshuva, this is the only way that slichas avenis is it comes, which means that there is a medida. And that medida is similar to the medida of Torah.
So, why do we start by saying that Tshuva is above medida, and then after that, immediately after that, we say the medida of Tshuva is that there has to be Tshuva? Why do we put this contradiction on the table?
My dear friend, introducing Pnimi Zatera. Pnimi Zatera cannot be stated on a flat surface. Yes, indeed. You will come with contradictory statements, and then, but you have to understand it anyway. Because you have to understand from a deeper perspective. There is a medida and there is a medida. We have just finished speaking on Torah. Torah has no medida, and we say no, Torah has medida. So we explain that the medida of Torah is not a superimposed medida. A medida, limit, means that something that limits the reality, doesn't give the full impact of the truth. But a medida that does not limit it and represents the whole truth, then that's not called a medida. Okay, here we'll be revisiting the similar principle. So we're saying that yes, indeed, tshuva is l'malam medida, but the union of tshuva is gam medida. That tshuva also has a medida. And what is the medida of tshuva? Now think about this. The medida of tshuva is that there has to be tshuva. So now we have to understand, is this a medida or is this not a medida? Is this a limiting factor in tshuva? Is this reducing tshuva to less than the absolute atzmos? Or is this not? So he goes to explain, okay? Please follow this, okay? O medida zu, this medida in tshuva, that tshuva is a requirement for slichas avenes. Hi mi b'chinas pnimius hakeser davko. This medida comes from the pnimius of keser. In other words, it comes from the deepest principle of etzem. This is where this medida is coming from. Ukmesha kosu b'makimachir, as is explained elsewhere. Ma shekosu v'kachashecha koiro. That this which the Pasuk says about Hashem, about Atzmos, that kachashecha koiro, that darkness and light are of equal standard. So this inyan kachashecha koira, and from this perspective, kachashecha koira means darkness and light are the same, which means taking it in so to speak, in significant terms, it means good and bad are equal. Chashecha is darkness, which is bad. Oira is light, is good, and they're equal standing. Chashecha ko'ira. The Medrash says as follows: that in the first day of creation, Hashem said there was cheshech. Primarily in the world was cheshech. Hashem said that there should be light, and there was light. So the Medrash says that at that point, Eini Yodeya, I do not know, which one is his preference, light or dark. And the Medrash says, which one is his preference, Maaseh Rishoyim or Maaseh Tzadikim? Which does he prefer, Maaseh Rishoyim, Maaseh Tzadikim? Mind-boggling statement. He is completely above the whole thing.
This would seem to be the real no limit.
No limit, total.
No limit whatsoever.
He's not affected by it. Okay, we'll now discuss this whole thing. Okay, I'd like you to follow. Yes, there is a contradiction, but please try to understand through it. Okay. So this which it says, this seems to be of a higher level than what we're saying that there is a medida. That it has to be dafke tshuva. So we're saying no. We're saying that this thing that there is a medida and there must be tshuva, this is rooted in pnimis hakesed dafke. This is a pnimis hakesed. And this which it says, this is altogether, this is the chitzonius of the mat. The misham yicholim, which means that from there, from chitzonius hamakiv, yicholim hakoil lekabel, all are capable to be receiving hashpah, clippers and everything can receive hashpah from them. The kama erech hapayim lefono, as the expression is, kama erech hapayim, how much extension of anger. There's no limit to his extension of the anger. The Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya like this. After all the encouragement that people should do tshuva and should be pure and so forth, he says, but one has to be always certain. Always has to be b'simcha. How can you be b'simcha? If you know your cheshbon, you know what's going on with you. So he says, as soon as a person, Ayid says, slach lono, he has to be confident that he got the slich. But then he says it 3 times a day. So how often can you so to speak indulge in this? So he says, Chanu Hamar B'Yisrael. So the Alter Rebbe explains an interesting principle. He says, even in Darkei Ha'odam, even on a human level, it says that a person has to forgive when he is asked for forgiveness. And the one who doesn't want to forgive, as we mentioned yesterday, he's missing something of Jewish quality. To tell you the story of David HaMelech I mentioned yesterday, it really is a mind-boggling thing. Because what happened over there was that Shaul HaMelech killed during his reign many of the Gibeonim. Why did he kill them? Because he suspected that they were hiding David. He was chasing after David. And anyone who came under suspicion that he was protecting David was killed. So HaMelech had a very tragic 2 years of reign. After that, the Gibeonim, after Shaul and the end of David David came into play. The Givonim, they captured Saul's children, 8 of Saul's children. And they said, we're going to take revenge for having killed, their father killed. Now clearly these children, they're not directly guilty. They're not, but nevertheless they want to take revenge. So David HaMelech went to them and pleaded that they should forgive. They should not kill the nation. And they would not forgive, and they killed him. After they did that, David HaMelech excommunicated them from the Jewish people.
Were they legitimate Jews before that?
They were
one of the tribes?
Givanim. No, not from the Givanim. No, they were Gadim. Givanim that came. They were accepted as Gadim. He says, "Hagivanim leiv bnei Yisrael hema." These are apostle. They're not of dissenting Jews. And David HaMelech segregated them. He says they are not Jews because Ayin is impossible for him not to forget, even under these most tragic circumstances. If you ask him for forgiveness, he's bound to forgive.
So where do you have the concept of Gol Adom by Rutzeh? Where Yid goes a
Kiyechem Lebovi, that's during the moment. That's what he says. You have to give a person a day, 2 or 3 days to be Menachem. You can't be Menachem right away, especially every year. So okay. So this is B'Teva B'nei Yodom. Alter Rebbe says, but nevertheless, B'Teva B'nei Yodom is a person transgresses once, twice, 3 times, then it becomes difficult for him to continue to forgive. But by Mebash, because it's Ein Sof, so there is no limit. You can ask Slach Lonu in the morning, and in the afternoon again. Oh, I did it again. Please forgive me. And then at night I did it again. Forgive me. In the morning I did it again. There's no limit. This is from Kama Erech HaPayim L'Fonim. So he says, and this Kama Erech HaPayim L'Fonim, this is for sinners that it can always get forgiveness. And within this arena, there is in from Kahashecha Ko'er. Kahashecha Ko'er, that he is not really affected, and therefore you can get forgiveness. You can, and all sin can be ignored.
But that's not. I thought you were.
One second. So he said like this. This is Kahashecha Ko'er. This is Mitzat Chitzonius Hamakif. And I'll explain in a moment. And this is what's called Chitzonius Hamakif. Well, B'Bchinas Pnimius HaKeser. But in the Bechina, that's called Pnimius HaKeser. Yesh B'Dido. There is a measure. And what is the measure there? And this is what we need to understand. Daniel, what is the measure? Is this measure represent a limit from the perspective of the forgiver, of the Meibashin? Is this place of Meibashin a certain kind of limit? I cannot do more? No. What is the medida of the Mepnimus HaKesef? Shetiye ha'hamshocha b'mokim haroi dafka. The medida is that the hamshocha should come the mokim haroi into the appropriate and a suitable place. Dafka. Exclusive. This is the Pshad Pnimius. And here's what we discussed yesterday briefly, and I want to go back now to discuss it on more fundamental, and because we have a little clarity over here, more fundamental clarity, which is nothing new to us, but nevertheless, there's a moment where you have to delve into it. We said yesterday that after the Tzimtzum, the expression in Pnei Chaim is, the assertion is that there was Nasa Cholol or Mokim Pomer. Cholol means emptiness. Mokim Pomer means a vacant space. Huh?
What's the difference?
Oh, what's the difference? What's the difference? So I'll give you a very simple illustration of the difference. There's a street right outside of this wall, and there is this the inside of the wall. What's the difference? The difference is that the street outside the wall, you can put anything you want in there. You put a table, chairs, you can put garbage, you can put anything you want, it doesn't bother you. Because it has sense for nothing. Sense for nothing, it doesn't bother, you can put anything you want. Inside these walls, it's the same space, but there's a demarcator in it. This is space made for a purpose. And anything that's in here finds its place here. I belong here. When you walk in the street and say, I belong here, I'm here because by default, nobody's stopping me. Here you come because you belong here. Not in Mokin Pond. The Mokin place is not vacancy. Place is that which a supportive element. There's an expression, yesh mokim leimer. In Sechel, yesh mokim leimer. Yesh mokim leimer means there's room in the intellect to say such a thing. Because the intellect cannot accept just plain gibberish, just plain stupidities. If the intellect has to accept it, means that yesh mokim, there is a place there. From a human perspective, from a living mind. This is why I say all the time that the idea that human beings have self-created from monkeys is idiocy, and it has no place in human thought. Ein mokim leimer. It's completely superimposed on the human being. There's no room for it. Hollow, yes. In emptiness, you can say anything you want. This was Pnimius and Chitzonius. Chitzonius in the Pshat, yes, the Rebbeinu is beyond limit, beyond effect. Nothing can affect him. Existent and not existent is identical. Like the expression in Chokei Yisrael, which is very difficult, there's no way to express it, because it doesn't. It says, Nimtzo bibchinas, follow these words, Nimtzo bibchinas, shaloi bibchinas mitzias nimtzo. He is present, but not by a presence. What kind of presence is this? You can't affect that presence. When the Eibishter decided to create the world, this was not an inadvertent decision. Why not? It was a proactive and intended decision to create a world with an intent. The difference between this intended or not intended, I would say, inadvertent or intended, is mamash day and night. Day and night, neither one are tangible. You can't touch day, you can't touch night. But it's such a difference that you can't even touch it. Day brings out reality, and night conceals reality. We discussed the other time. I want to finish before I put you. We discussed the other time the Indian from Shoirish. That Torah is Mushish and Atzmus. And I explained that the Indian from Shoirish, a root, is not that it's a distant, this is where it's coming from. Root means this is what it's standing on. Like we discussed, a tree is standing on the ground. So superficially seems the tree is standing on the ground, but then when you examine it, you say, how is the tree standing? Is it balancing itself against it? No, it's not standing. So we realize, hey, the tree actually has its roots in the ground. Has its roots in the ground. And this is how it's held up. This concept that the tree has its roots in the ground can be viewed in two very, very different manners. And this is the difference between Pnimis and Chitzonius, between light and dark. It can be viewed that the tree is holding itself onto the ground. It has its roots, and it is holding itself up. It's holding itself on the ground by, for dear life, so to speak. What is the other view? The tree is not holding it. The earth is holding the tree up. The tree comes from the earth, and the earth is holding the tree. Not the tree is holding itself. The original creator of the tree continues to hold the tree. Continue to nurture it. It continues to hold it. The earth has that command. Teitze Horetz, the earth should produce. And the earth is holding on to and maintaining that which it produces. The tree is holding itself up. Where does it get that spirit from? This is exactly the same point that we make all the time. Day and night. Exactly the same thing. This is the difference between Pnimius and Chitzonius. In Chitzonius, anybody can come and take. But you are taking it. Nobody is giving it to you.
The Chitzonius what? They said they were louder than us. The Chitzonius what?
You take. Go ahead. Take whatever you want. But you're on your. But you're the Metzias. You're taking. There's no provision for you. You're on your own. You're in the street. You can do anything you want in the street, in the Hefker. But there's no makif reality. No context.
So, like Marshall, stealing will be Chitzonius, and
stealing is Chitzonius and Chitzonius. Here is a Chitzonius and Chitzonius.
So, another example of Chitzonius and Pnimius.
Okay, well, we need more examples. What's wrong with this?
No, nothing else.
Okay. This is what the Rebbe says. Kachashecha Koir. Kachashecha Koir shows the greatness of the Meibesh. Kachashecha Koir. But that's Chitzonius. That's not what we're relating to. Are we satisfied to be walking in our own nothingness? And I can grab whatever I want. That's not life. That's not what we're after. Bringing it a little bit home, just to illustrate it, to bring it down to our practical, our own practical thing. Every home is a place, is a moken for its family, for its inhabitants. It is not a hefker place. It's a place for their development. It's a provider for it. So, if a child misbehaves, So you say, oh, leave him alone, I can take it. Yes, you can take it. But that means that you don't really care what happens with him. He's there on his own. It's Hefker. He has his right. He has his place. Not his place. His nothingness also. Emptiness. There is nothing. There's no emptiness in our lives. There is always a context. That's Pnimius. This Pnimius, even though you say it's setting a limit, here is where I'd like you to try to at least get the Nakuda. What in fact is the difference between Pnimius and Kitzonius? How do we identify it? I mean, we can hear the principles on how do we identify it? Let's take a simple illustration again from a home. You have a family, and you provide for your family. Let's say that Baruch Hashem, you're blessed and you are independently wealthy. There is no limit. You have ample resources, and you say, okay, anything that's needed is here. This is a provision that comes from Chitzonius. In other words, the reason you're providing it is because you have it. And since you have unlimited resources, you don't take whatever you want. It's not affecting me. What is the Pnimius? Pnimius is, no, I don't have anything. And I'm going to go work and I'm going to bring it. I'm going to create it from nothingness. Because the reality of it is what creates it, not the fact that I have the resource. The creation of the world, there was no world prior to creation.
There was
No world before. There's nothing compelling about creating the world. Why did Rebbe create the world? He created the will to create the world. Because there is a pneumistic significance to it. Because he wanted to create it. Not because there's some demand. But a built-in Mitzvah's nature. A presence that does not really pre-exist its presence. This is the Pshat Yesh Me'ayin. You create even though there is no prior demand. Where does it come from? That's from Pnimi. That's from a super reality. That is Pnimius. And in Pnimius, nothing is inadvertent. Everything is intentional. And this is the pshat that it has to be tshuva dafki. What does it need tshuva? The Rebbe can't tshuva, no tshuva. Come on, wipe it away. I can wipe it away for a guy because I don't care what happens. But a yid, he has to belong here. So the tshuva is not that it creates the possibility of forgiveness, but it makes it real. That's where there's tshuva. Because the amshocha milmayla in pnimis can come only lemokim haroi. Mokim Haroy means what? To a suitable place. That's the Hagbolah. This is not Hagbolah, it's a Medida. This Medida supersedes the limitlessness of Chitzonius. Because Chitzonius only represents the availability of the infinite resources. The Pnimis represents the truth of that presence, not the availability. I never thought of this, but it's interesting. It's coming up. Lahavdil. But the going is also the indication that you should forgive. You should forgive. Our forgiveness and their forgiveness. Two different worlds. Two different worlds. Our forgiveness is, remember, you and he are both Hashem's creations. And you don't want that there should be a blemish in Hashem's world. You want it to be perfect. Like you mentioned, talk about Gneva and Gzela, You don't want there should be any impurity in Hashem's world. If I can help it, that this impurity should be eradicated, I'm ready to do it. There's a reality behind this forgiveness. The other forgiveness is a completely different thing. It's a forgiveness coming from nothingness. This is what, so we get the point here? How significant this is? Okay, just want to come to the...
Can I ask you a question on something you said before, or you want to alternate? I can leave it till the end.
No, this is the end, because he has to leave. Okay, at least we got this clear. What do you want to ask?
Before, when you were giving the example of Kanan Amar B'Disloya, and you were saying that sort of that was an example of Chachashecha Cha'ira.
Okay, so this is the difference. Found the Erech HaPayim. Mitzad the greatness, I know what your question is.
No, my question.
Mitzad the greatness, Avis's greatness, the infinity, yes, he can forgive anything. But in Pnimius, there is a requirement that you ask Slachlo. Yes, what? For forgiveness.
In other words,
the capability is there, but that's not the relationship you want.
the Alter Rebbe is explaining a Panemius Inyan. In other words, the Alter Rebbe is explaining...
What does he say over there? That the minute we ask, he forgives.
Okay, so you're comparing the asking and getting the slicha versus the possibility
to forgive anything. Okay, so this is it for today. Next time it's going to be
Sunday.
after Shabbos Bereshis. anyway I can think.